Have you ever heard that Islam warns us about certain creatures because they can threaten our safety in ways we often overlook? Some of these might even be around your home right now. Mufti Menk often reminds us that protecting life comes first. So today, we're breaking down which creatures fall into this category and why these teachings matter more than we realize. 1. Poisonous snakes. Why Islamic teachings warn us about them? When Islamic teachings mention eliminating poisonous snakes, the core message is not about hostility toward animals, it's about safeguarding human life. In early Islamic societies, people lived in deserts, farms, and open environments where venomous snakes were a real danger. Encounters were common, and a single bite could be fatal, especially at a time when medical treatment was limited. This practical reality shaped the guidance we find in traditional sources. Scholars often highlight that these instructions revolve around preventing harm, not encouraging cruelty. Today, although many people live in urban settings, dangerous snakes still appear in rural regions, villages, and outdoor areas where families farm, camp, or keep livestock. In such places, a venomous snake entering a home or a space where children play is genuinely threatening. Islamic scholars, including Mufti Menk, frequently clarify that these rulings apply when a creature becomes a direct hazard. If a snake is harmless or kept in controlled environments, such as zoos or research centers, the ruling doesn't apply because the element of danger is absent. Another important point is that Islam emphasizes responsible action. In many narrations, Muslims are encouraged to warn snakes before removing them, especially in regions like Medina, where some species were believed to coexist peacefully unless provoked. This shows that the tradition carries layers of nuance. The objective is not blind aggression, it's intelligent caution, combined with respect for life. In a modern context, this teaching can be understood as promoting awareness of immediate threats, whether from wildlife, environmental hazards, or unsafe conditions around our homes. Just as we take safety measures like sealing cracks, clearing cluttered areas, or teaching children to avoid risky places, understanding the historical background of these rulings adds meaning to how we protect our families today. When Mufti Menk addresses topics like this, he often shifts the focus toward wisdom. Islam prioritizes safety, encourages mindfulness, and reminds believers to prevent harm before it happens. By learning about creatures that posed risks in earlier times, we gain insight into broader principles, such as taking precautions, staying aware of our environment, and responding responsibly when danger appears. So the lesson here goes beyond snakes. It reinforces a mindset of being alert, valuing life, and acting with care whenever something threatens our well-being or that of those around us. 2. Rabid or dangerous dogs. Understanding the Islamic perspective. When Islamic teachings mention eliminating dangerous or rabid dogs, it's essential to understand the context in which these guidelines were given. In early Muslim communities, people lived in open environments where wild or stray dogs often roamed freely. Many carried diseases, especially rabies, which was almost always fatal at the time. With no access to vaccines or modern medical treatment, a single bite could lead to severe illness or death. This made the presence of aggressive or visibly sick dogs a serious public threat, especially to children and livestock. Islam's approach to this issue is rooted in prioritizing human safety while encouraging kindness toward animals whenever possible. Scholars frequently clarify that the instruction relates specifically to dogs that display harmful behavior, such as attacking people, carrying contagious diseases, or threatening the well-being of a community. Islam does not promote harming healthy, peaceful dogs, nor does it oppose keeping dogs for necessary purposes like farming, herding, protection, or service roles. In fact, several narrations emphasize compassion toward animals and reward those who care for them. Understanding this distinction is important, especially today. Modern societies have veterinary care, vaccinations, shelters, and animal control services that can handle dangerous animals safely and humanely. This means that the original guidance, focused on immediate protection, can be fulfilled through more structured and ethical methods. Instead of individuals taking action, trained professionals can evaluate whether a dog poses a legitimate threat and proceed in a way that aligns with both safety and compassion. In rural areas, however, the challenge still exists. Communities may encounter stray dogs showing signs of rabies, such as unusual aggression, drooling, or erratic behavior. In such situations, the principle behind the Islamic teaching still matters, preventing harm before it escalates. By reporting the animal to authorities, maintaining distance, and ensuring children stay away, families can follow the spirit of the guidance while using modern resources. Mufti Menk and other scholars often remind listeners that Islam's teachings aim to protect life, encourage responsibility, and avoid unnecessary harm. The instruction regarding dangerous dogs is not a blanket rule. It is a measured response to genuine risk. When we look at it with this understanding, it becomes a lesson in community safety, environmental awareness, and responsible decision-making. The broader takeaway is simple. Islam encourages believers to be proactive in removing danger while acting with fairness, mercy, and intelligence. 3. Scorpions. Why Islamic teachings? Urge caution and immediate action. Scorpions are among the creatures most directly associated with danger in Islamic teachings, and for good reason. In many regions where early Muslim communities lived, scorpions were a common threat. They often hid in shoes, bedding, clothing, and dark corners of homes made from clay or natural materials. A single sting, especially from species found in the Arabian Peninsula, could cause severe pain, infection, or even death, particularly for children and the elderly. Because of this constant risk, the instruction to eliminate scorpions wasn't about hostility toward nature. It was about survival and protecting families in an environment where the smallest oversight could lead to tragedy. Islam emphasizes prevention, safety, and mindfulness. Scorpions fit into this principle because their behavior makes them unpredictable. Unlike snakes that generally avoid human contact, scorpions easily sneak into living spaces unnoticed. Their small size allows them to enter homes through gaps or burrows, making them a continuous concern for people living in desert climates. The guidance to remove them immediately reflects an understanding of how quickly harm can occur and how limited medical options were at the time. Today, the relevance of this teaching remains clear, even though many people live in safer, urbanized settings. In rural areas, farms, and developing regions, scorpions are still present. Some species deliver venom that requires urgent medical attention, and not every community has immediate access to health care. This is where the wisdom of the original instruction becomes obvious. Acting quickly can prevent serious harm. Modern safety methods, such as sealing cracks, wearing protective footwear, shaking out clothes, and using pest control services, align perfectly with the broader Islamic principle of minimizing danger. Eliminating scorpions in the home is simply part of maintaining a safe environment, just as we would address exposed wiring, slippery floors, or contaminated water sources. Another important aspect is Islam's balanced approach. The guidance is specific to harmful scorpions found in living spaces, not to harmless species in natural environments where they pose no threat. Scholars, including Mufti Menk, often highlight that Islamic rulings consider intention and context. If removing a creature prevents harm, it aligns with the principle of protecting life, one of the highest objectives in Islamic teachings. Ultimately, this key point isn't only about scorpions. It reinforces the idea that safety starts with awareness. Understanding the risks around us and taking responsible action is part of caring for ourselves, our families, and our communities. 4. Rats that spread disease. Understanding the Islamic guidance, rats have been recognized for centuries as carriers of disease, and this made them a serious threat to human life in the environments where early Muslims lived. Homes were often built from natural materials, food was stored in simple containers, and families relied heavily on their crops, livestock, and limited resources. A rat infestation could quickly contaminate food supplies, damage essential goods, and spread illnesses that people had no medical treatment for. Because of this real danger, Islamic teachings permitted the removal of rats as a protective measure, not out of cruelty, but out of a need to safeguard communities. The wisdom behind this guidance becomes clearer when we consider how rats behave. They breed rapidly, squeeze into small spaces, and often wander into kitchens, storage areas, and sleeping spaces. In the past, this meant constant exposure to bacteria and parasites carried by rodents. Illnesses such as food poisoning, fevers, and infections were common consequences. Therefore, taking quick action was considered a necessary step to protect human health. In modern times, the issue may feel different, but the core principle remains relevant. Cities around the world still struggle with rat populations, particularly in crowded neighborhoods or poorly maintained buildings. Rats can damage wiring, chew through walls, and contaminate food, and some still carry harmful pathogens. Instead of relying on individuals to handle the problem alone, we now have professional pest control services, advanced sanitation methods, and secure food storage options. These tools fulfill the same protective purpose that the original teachings emphasized. Islam's guidance is always based on balance and responsibility. Scholars often highlight that the focus is on harmful rats, those that create danger for humans, spread disease, or cause significant damage. The instruction does not apply to rodents kept responsibly as pets or used in scientific research under controlled conditions. The intent is to remove harm, not to promote needless harm toward any creature. Mufti Menk and other teachers of Islamic ethics frequently emphasize that our faith encourages cleanliness, prevention, and awareness. Addressing a rat problem in a home or community is simply an extension of these values. By taking action early, whether through proper waste management, sealing entry points, or calling professionals, we follow the spirit of the teaching while acting with modern resources and compassion. At its core, this key point reminds us that protecting our health and environment is a personal responsibility. Staying alert, maintaining hygiene, and responding wisely to threats keeps our living spaces safe and our families healthy. 5. Crows that cause harm. Why Islamic teachings address them. Crows are interesting creatures, intelligent, resourceful, and highly adaptive. But in early Islamic societies, certain types of crows were known for behaviors that brought harm to people's daily lives. Unlike many birds that avoided human spaces, crows often raided crops, scattered stored grains, and damaged food supplies that families relied on for survival. For communities that lived off their harvest, this was a serious issue. A single flock could destroy weeks of effort, leaving families vulnerable. Because of this, Islamic teachings allowed people to remove harmful crows as a practical measure to protect their livelihood. These teachings typically refer to specific species known for aggressive or destructive behavior, not every crow in general. Scholars often point out that some types of crows were notorious for attacking young livestock or smaller birds and creating disturbances that affected farming communities. The aim was not to target wildlife unnecessarily, but to address real threats that directly affected people's food security. Today, the situation is different in many parts of the world. Modern farming methods, protected storage facilities, and wildlife management systems help reduce the problems caused by birds. In many places, crows are simply part of the natural environment and pose no real danger. However, there are still regions, especially rural or agricultural areas, where certain species can create significant challenges by damaging crops or contaminating food sources. In such cases, dealing with them responsibly aligns with the broader Islamic principle of preventing harm. It's important to note that Islam consistently encourages kindness toward animals. The permission to remove harmful crows is not a general license to harm birds, nor does it apply when they are simply present in the environment without causing danger. The focus is always on intentional, proven harm. If the threat can be managed in a peaceful or non-lethal way, such as using protective nets, scare devices, or proper storage, those methods are fully in line with the spirit of Islamic ethics. Mufti Menk and many contemporary scholars emphasize that rulings must be understood in their proper context. The message here is not about hostility toward nature, but about protecting essential needs. It teaches us to be aware of what threatens our well-being and to respond wisely, responsibly, and without excess. Ultimately, this key point highlights a broader life lesson. Safeguarding our resources is part of our responsibility. Whether we're protecting food, health, or our environment, Islam encourages thoughtful action rooted in balance and fairness. 6. Kites, predatory birds, when they threaten safety. Understanding the Islamic view. Kites are predatory birds known for their sharp vision, strong beaks, and ability to swoop quickly when hunting. In early Muslim communities, especially those living in open areas, deserts, and farmland, kites often came close to human settlements in search of food. While they generally avoid people, certain species became problematic because they targeted livestock, scattered stored meat, and occasionally swooped aggressively, causing fear and injury. This is why Islamic teachings allowed people to deal with harmful kites when they directly threatened safety or essential resources. It's important to understand that this ruling was not about eliminating birds in general. Islam places great value on the natural world and repeatedly teaches kindness toward all creatures. The guidance about kites applied specifically to situations where these birds caused real harm. In those times, families relied heavily on their livestock and food supplies. A single bird stealing or damaging meat was not a small inconvenience. It could affect a family's nourishment for days. In addition, children playing outdoors were more exposed, and sudden swooping could cause injuries or panic. Today, the context is very different. Most people live in urban or suburban areas where kites pose little to no danger. Many species simply circle high above fields, feeding on small animals without affecting human life. Modern food storage, proper fencing, and waste management significantly reduce the chances of these birds becoming a threat. In many countries, kites are even protected wildlife because they help control rodent populations and maintain ecological balance. However, there are still rare cases, mainly in rural regions or farming communities, where kites may become aggressive, especially during nesting season or when attracted by exposed waste. In such situations, the principle behind the Islamic guidance still applies. Remove harm in the safest, most responsible way possible. Thanks to modern wildlife services, communities can now report aggressive birds, relocate nests, or take non-lethal measures to protect their animals and homes. These solutions stay true to Islamic values of balance, fairness, and responsibility. Mufti Menk and other scholars often explain that Islamic teachings are not rigid instructions to harm animals, but practical guidelines shaped by context. When no danger exists, there is no issue. When a real threat appears, action is taken with wisdom and caution, not excessive force. The broader message behind this key point is awareness. We learn to recognize threats, protect what matters, and act in a way that respects life while ensuring safety. Islam encourages believers to stay mindful, make thoughtful decisions, and uphold compassion even in moments of precaution. 7. House geckos. Understanding their mention in Islamic teachings. House geckos, especially the species commonly found in warm regions, are small, quick-moving reptiles that often enter homes. In Islamic teachings, they are mentioned because people believed they carried certain risks in earlier times. Homes were built from clay, wood, and natural materials, and geckos easily hid in cracks or climbed near lamps and cooking spaces. Their droppings could contaminate food, and their presence was linked to spreading germs in households with minimal sanitation. Because of these concerns, Islamic guidance allowed people to remove them when they became a nuisance or posed a hygiene risk. One aspect often highlighted by scholars is an incident from the Prophet's time, where the gecko was connected to spreading flames during a critical moment. While interpretations vary, the overall message is clear. Any creature that increases risk, whether through disease, contamination, or disturbance, may be dealt with for the sake of safety. The teaching is rooted in precaution, not hostility. In modern homes, the situation can differ. Many gecko species are harmless and even help by eating insects, such as mosquitoes. However, in certain regions, larger or more aggressive types, like the tokay gecko, can bite, leave significant droppings, or cause noise that disrupts sleep. Their droppings may carry bacteria, and their sudden movement can scare children or the elderly. This makes it understandable why some families feel uncomfortable when geckos freely move through living areas. Islam's teachings always prioritize cleanliness, health, and protecting family well-being. If a gecko causes contamination or distress, taking steps to remove it aligns with these values. However, modern solutions allow for gentle, non-lethal methods when possible. Simple actions like sealing gaps, using mesh screens, maintaining cleanliness, and applying natural repellents often keep homes gecko-free without harming them. When necessary, professional pest control can handle the situation safely and responsibly. Mufti Menk and many contemporary scholars emphasize the principle behind such teachings. Avoid harm, maintain hygiene, and act with balance. The permission to remove geckos is based on their potential danger, not on an instruction to harm them without cause. If a gecko is outside, harmless, or simply passing through a garden wall, there is no issue. The broader lesson here is about mindfulness in our living spaces. Islam encourages believers to create a clean, safe environment where families can live comfortably. Understanding the reasoning behind these teachings helps us appreciate their wisdom and apply them in a way that fits our time, our homes, and our circumstances. 8. Insects that spread diseases. the practical wisdom behind this teaching. In Islamic teachings, the guidance to remove harmful insects, especially those known for spreading diseases, comes from a place of protecting human life. Insects like mosquitoes, flies, and certain biting bugs were serious threats in earlier times. Families lived close to nature, water sources were open, and medical knowledge was limited. A single mosquito bite could lead to fever, infection, or widespread illness. Because these insects multiplied quickly and entered homes with ease, they posed a constant risk. Allowing people to eliminate them was simply a practical step to keep families safe. What makes these insects especially dangerous is their ability to transmit disease without being noticed. Mosquitoes can spread malaria, dengue, and other infections in regions where these illnesses are common. Flies can contaminate food by landing on waste and then on meals. Small insects hiding in bedding or clothing can cause rashes, infections, or allergic reactions. This invisible threat is precisely why Islamic guidance emphasizes prevention, removing harm before it affects someone's health. Today, the message remains highly relevant even with modern medicine. Many countries still face mosquito-borne diseases, and outbreaks often begin when people neglect basic precautions. Even in developed areas, insects can carry bacteria, contaminate kitchens, and cause discomfort. Unlike animals that pose a physical threat, these insects spread harm silently, making vigilance even more important. Modern solutions align perfectly with the spirit of Islamic teachings. Using nets, screens, repellents, and proper waste disposal helps prevent insects from entering living spaces. Keeping kitchens clean, covering food, and draining stagnant water all serve as protective measures encouraged by both science and faith. Where infestations occur, professional pest control and community sanitation efforts address the issue ethically and effectively. It's also important to understand that Islam promotes balance. The focus is on removing insects that cause genuine harm, not harmless bugs found outdoors or in nature. Scholars explain that the ruling is tied to the threat level. If an insect spreads disease, damages food, or causes distress inside the home, taking action is justified. If it poses no danger, leaving it alone is perfectly acceptable. Mufti Menk and many teachers highlight a broader lesson within this guidance. Cleanliness and awareness are core values in Islam. Protecting health is a responsibility, and taking steps to prevent disease is part of caring for ourselves and those around us. This key point ultimately encourages mindfulness. By staying alert to hidden risks, maintaining clean environments, and responding wisely, we create homes that are healthier, calmer, and safer for everyone. 9. Harmful pests inside the home. Why Islam encourages removing hidden threats. When Islamic teachings refer to removing harmful pests from the home, the message is broader than any single creature. It points to a general principle. Anything that threatens your health, your food, or your living environment should be addressed quickly and responsibly. In earlier Muslim societies, homes were simple and connected directly to nature. This made it easy for pests like termites, bedbugs, cockroaches, ants, and other small creatures to invade living spaces. Because people lacked modern tools for cleaning and pest control, even minor infestations could become major health risks. These pests created problems that weren't always visible at first. Termites could weaken the structure of a home, making it unsafe. Cockroaches spread bacteria, especially in places where food was prepared. Ants could contaminate stored grains or invade kitchens, and bedbugs caused irritation, infection, and loss of sleep. The more hidden the pest, the easier it was for harm to spread unnoticed. Islamic guidance encouraged people to remove these threats early, not because the creatures had no place in nature, but because the home must remain a safe, clean space for families. Today, this teaching feels even more relevant. Modern homes contain wiring, wooden furniture, insulation, and food storage systems that pests can easily damage. A few unnoticed cockroaches can multiply into hundreds. Termites can destroy furniture or walls from the inside. Bedbugs can spread from one home to another without people even realizing it. These are exactly the kinds of hidden harms that Islamic principles teach us to prevent. The good news is that we now have modern solutions that align perfectly with Islamic values. Regular cleaning, proper waste disposal, covering food, sealing cracks, and maintaining ventilation all help prevent pests. When infestations grow, calling professional exterminators is a responsible and ethical choice. These methods remove danger without causing unnecessary harm, fulfilling both the intention and spirit of the original guidance. It is also important to remember balance. Not every insect or small creature needs to be harmed, only those that threaten hygiene, comfort, or safety. If a creature is outdoors or harmless, leaving it alone is encouraged. Islam teaches respect for all living beings, but places human well-being at the top. Mufti Menk often explains that safeguarding your home is part of taking care of the blessings Allah has given. Removing harmful pests is not merely a physical act. It reflects gratitude, cleanliness, and awareness. By maintaining a healthy living space, we protect our families and uphold values that Islam consistently emphasizes. This key point ultimately teaches responsibility. A clean home is a peaceful home, and prevention is always better than cure. 10. Mufti Menk's reminder: prioritizing human safety with mercy and balance. The final and most important point Mufti Menk often emphasizes is that Islamic teachings about removing dangerous creatures must always be understood through the lens of wisdom, context, and mercy. Islam is a faith built on compassion, and every instruction carries a purpose. When it comes to creatures that pose danger, the purpose is simple: protect human life while upholding fairness and responsibility. Mufti Menk frequently reminds listeners that many traditional rulings were shaped by the circumstances of early Muslim communities: open desert environments, limited medical options, and homes vulnerable to wildlife. In those settings, quick action against harmful creatures wasn't about cruelty. It was about preventing serious illness or loss. Today, the same principle applies, but the way we act may differ because we have safer, more humane alternatives. A central lesson he shares is that Islam never encourages harm without reason. If a creature is dangerous, spreads disease, damages essential resources, or threatens a family, removing that danger becomes an act of protection. But if the creature is harmless, outside the home, or easily guided away, then gentleness is the preferred path. This balance reflects the deeper values of Islam: mercy toward creation, responsibility toward our families, and awareness of how our actions affect the world around us. Mufti Menk also highlights the importance of intention. Eliminating a harmful animal is not about anger or fear. It is about safeguarding well-being. When our intention is pure, preventing harm, protecting loved ones, and maintaining a clean, safe environment, our actions carry moral value. Islam teaches that even simple efforts to preserve life, such as securing one's home from danger, are acts of care and gratitude. What makes this key point powerful is its modern relevance. Today, we have tools like pest control services, animal rescue teams, sanitation systems, and medical treatments. Using these resources reflects the same Islamic teaching. Respond wisely, minimize danger, and avoid unnecessary harm. This shows that faith and responsibility go hand in hand. In the end, Mufti Menk's message is about perspective. These teachings are not instructions to fear nature, but reminders to stay cautious, informed, and respectful. Islam encourages believers to protect themselves while honoring the balance Allah created in the world. When we act with understanding and kindness, we fulfill both the letter and spirit of these teachings. This final key point ties everything together. Protect life, act wisely, and uphold compassion. Always. On pious Deen, remember, protecting life is part of faith. Stay aware. Stay compassionate. Comment, I choose safety and wisdom daily. Like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring guidance.